Okay. Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at our website, horrormakesushappy.com. Before we get started, little information for you and the listeners. This is the trigger warning section. We're going to be talking about messed up stuff, horror movies, dark occult culture, which can involve anything from murder, rape, suicide, child abuse, basically things that certain people may find offensive. So if that's not your thing, go find
Get out
something
now.
else. Yes. Or maybe think about it and come back. But yeah, if that is your thing, welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy. We talk about fucked up shit and interesting things. It's a psychological intrigue thing. I am failing for words today.
Cut. Start over.
Yeah, from the top. Let's see. Who do we have next, Steve? As far as our guest up?
We've got to reschedule Bob Glazier, but I don't have anybody else on the calendar at the moment. As you know, and the listeners may or may not know, we took some time off to deal with some personal stuff and getting back on the calendar. We had 2 or 3 people sign up pretty quick, and then now I've just got to get back into getting everybody else signed up. Although, really, I don't know how much we can get on the calendar because we've got these plans to do some more personal stuff next month. So we might just take a little bit of a hiatus. We've got enough in the can to last us through September. So it's not like it's going to kill us to take a little time off.
Through September. Okay. That should be enough buffer time. Just barely.
Yep.
But that's what we have lined up next. As for today, we have the pleasure of the company of Mr. Sam Salerno, writer, director, and producer, best known for his works Kiss My Ashes, Death by a Thousand Cuts, and, of course, The Dark Side of the Womb, which, again, I discovered this afternoon is streaming free on his YouTube channel. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's beautiful, hilarious, and fucked up. All my favorite things. Welcome, Sam. How are you doing today?
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm doing good. I think you're one of the only people who actually said my last name right. So
I actually had it as an M, as in Mike, for like the longest time, but I double checked it today, and it's an N. So, I mean, no, I'm good at stuff.
So, what are you working on right now, Sam?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, right now I'm like 2 days into my Indiegogo campaign for my next project. So I've been just trying to make a lot of memes and whatnot, trying to promote that. It's what I've been dedicating my time to.
Nice. It's interesting. Memes are like the flyers of today.
Yeah.
Is the Indiegogo already up, or are you planning to put it up?
Yeah, it's been up for about 2 days.
Oh, okay. Well, it might be over by the time this gets aired, but for the people who might be interested in going to check it out, what's it called?
It's called Erotomaniac.
Ooh.
It's like a stalker sort of film, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. We will put together a bio page for you and link to whatever you want. So if you want us to link to some stuff, we can do that as well.
Oh, for sure.
Before we get into the meat of the interview, just a real brief sort of description. In the interview, we'll be asking 3 sets of questions covering your childhood, teenage years, and adulthood to find out what it is about horror that you like. The idea being that if we come at it from more than one angle, sometimes that triggers memories that you'd forgotten. But that said, it's not meant to be a therapy session. So if there's something you don't want to talk about, just say pass and we'll move on. But starting with childhood, what are some of your earliest memories of scary things?
I think my earliest memory, I think, is every year I'm in LA, but every year we'd go back to Indiana to visit family, and I remember with my grandma watching the movie The Ghost of Mr. Chicken with Don Knotts.
Okay,
sort of like a horror comedy type of movie.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just loving that and watching it a lot at times as a kid. That and Scooby-Doo, I think, were the earliest kind of horror-ish things that kind of got me into it.
Okay. What was it? Ghost of Mr. what?
The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Chicken.
Okay, so it's not a ghost of a chicken, it's the ghost and Mr. Chicken. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, they're using chicken as in like a person who's easily afraid, I guess. Like
Yeah.
he has to stay in a haunted house for like a night.
It is Don Knotts.
Yeah, it's like very like slapsticky and goofy.
Okay. Anything else? It doesn't have to be movies or TV. I mean, it could be books or anything.
I think that was mostly it. Like, I mean, the other thing is that like my birthday is November 1st, so I just always like it was like a special 2 days, like Halloween and then my birthday the next day. I remember like my mom taking me to the Halloween stores on, like on my birthday because everything was like super discounted. So,
I can relate. My birthday is usually the week after Thanksgiving, and it was always nice, even if people weren't giving me gifts. Just having the family get together for Thanksgiving, and you get a pat on the head, and hey, happy birthday! You got a birthday coming up, and
yeah,
it's always nice.
Yeah.
Do you remember what scared you about this Don Knotts film?
Yeah, I guess it didn't really like necessarily like it just has like all of the like classic like horror movie cliches, like the piano that or the organ that plays itself and the cobwebs and this abandoned house, and it's like a big portrait, like a painting of a guy on the wall, and at one point there's like
it moves,
some like garden shears appear in the picture and it's like bleeding. Like it's not really scary, but it just I guess introduced me to a lot of the like horror like cliches and whatnot, and I just like got really into that.
I could ask for Scooby-Doo, but I think kind of similar thing there. They had all the Universal monsters and all the
classic tropes. Like you were saying, like the painting, sometimes the eyes follow you and things like that. Or
exactly. And then then when I was a little older, just going to like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, just like always would be drawn to the horror section, I guess, because I already liked those that imagery and whatnot from those, so I just got into it through that.
Okay. Did you find it scary at all, or was it just like fascinating?
Yeah, more just like fascinating. I remember once I started actually watching them, me and my friend, we would just be renting whatever movies my parents would let us rent, because they weren't going to let us rent anything that extreme because we were young. But I remember like the big one was that we were both so scared to watch The Exorcist. Yep. Then when I finally watched it, it was like so terrifying.
How old were you when you saw that?
Probably about like, I think I was in like 6th grade. So I guess like 11 or 12 maybe.
Okay. Yeah. That's still, I'd probably say that's closer to childhood than teenage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had a friend who was also into this stuff with you?
Yeah. He only lived here for like a year or two. It was like a short period, but I just remember me and him just renting like basically every horror movie from Hollywood Video that my mom would at least let us rent.
Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned it was your grandmother that would watch this movie with you. So was she a horror fan?
No, not at all. I think she just liked because that one had Don Knotts.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. She refuses to watch horror movies. I did get her to watch Tusk, but she hated that
one. Anybody else in your family horror fan?
Really, just me and my mom are the only ones.
Okay. Did your mother like introduce you to horror stuff as, how can I say this? Some parents kind of sit their kids down and explain stuff to them, and then other parents just kind of throw them in and teach them how to, throw you in the pool to learn how to swim type of thing. How do you feel it was with your mom? Was it more one way or the other?
Yeah, I guess like the second way. She mostly just, when I showed an interest in it, she just showed me a lot of the ones that she liked. Like, for instance, like the reason I wanted to watch The Exorcist is because my mom had always told me that she read the book when she was like a kid and she loved it. Mm-hmm. So she like built that one up for me,
They probably told you at the time, like maybe not this one just yet, maybe later or something like that.
Same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street too. She really built that one up to me for a long time before I finally watched it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember any others that you saw when you were a kid that she introduced you to?
Trying to think. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of tough. I mean, the other thing too is that like my mom was always watching like Dateline and a lot of like, like the true crime docs. So she got me into those too at a very young age.
You were ahead of the time.
Yeah, I think so. Like the earlier days of Dateline, I guess. I don't know when it started, but
like Unsolved Mysteries and that kind of thing too, or no?
I actually didn't see that till a lot later. It was pretty much just Dateline, really, in the earlier days, at least.
I mean, Dateline was kind of a precursor to Unsolved Mysteries.
I don't remember enough about it. I thought it was just like a news show, kind of like 60 Minutes, but
some episodes are, and then a lot of them are just like they'll just cover one like murder case.
Okay, I mean it's been a while.
Yeah. Right.
Did any of this stuff trigger any phobias or fears or enhance ones that had already been there?
Not really, because like one of the Datelines is actually like right by where I live, and like to me that's just cool. Like
Yeah.
didn't really give me a phobia. It's like there's like a pharmacy there now, but it was like a Jack in the Box or a fast food restaurant where I guess some big high profile murder happened. To me, that's just cool that that's like right.
Yeah, I
near
guess
me.
it kind of normalizes it. Well, not even normalize it. It brings it home, but in a good way. Not like it hits close to home, so it's disturbing. It almost masks that scariness or disturbingness by the fact that, hey, that's cool. That happened near where I live.
Yeah,
That
for
connection.
sure.
All right. And when I asked that, I wasn't just talking about Dateline. I mean, any of the stuff that you experienced as a kid, the Exorcist or whatever.
Oh yeah, there was one. I don't know what it was, but there was one like ghost documentary. It was, I guess like presenting all this evidence for ghosts. I remember that one. Like I guess like for me, like supernatural stuff feels like the scariest. So
Okay.
that they made a convincing case for ghosts existing. At least when I was a kid. So I remember that probably scared me more than anything.
Any particular thing about supernatural stuff that scares you?
I don't really know. I guess it's just like I can accept that there's like a killer out there or whatnot, but like it just feels like those things like shouldn't exist or shouldn't interact with us. I don't know. Just like I'd rather not. I don't get these ghost hunters. I'd rather just stay away from a ghost if they're out there.
Well, the other thing too, I mean, you can't put a ghost in jail, so
True.
Sure, you can. Scooby Doo.
well, but those aren't really ghosts.
No, no, it's Old Man Rivers.
Yep. Did you dress up for Halloween as a kid? I'm guessing so,
Yeah.
since you went to the stores the day after Halloween to grab stuff.
Yeah, I dress up every year.
Did you have a favorite costume?
There's one costume that I always wanted, but they wouldn't let us wear it to like the school event. Was the scream mask with the where you could push a little button and it would have the like blood run down like the ghost. I always wanted that one, but I couldn't. So when I think back, like I recently found some family photos and I had a pretty cool ninja costume in one. Like me and my brother, we were both ninjas, so I thought that one looked kind of cool when I found that photo.
Nice.
Did you do like a color scheme thing, like you were yellow like Scorpion and he was Sub-Zero, or was Mortal Kombat out yet? Probably not.
They were just like I think like generic like black ninja costumes. Like, I think we had the same costume.
Any least favorite costumes?
Yeah, I remember one year I went to the Halloween store and I got the costume from the kid from Spy Kids, and like a week later I really regretted getting that, but my mom told me like she had already bought it, so she wouldn't let me get another one.
Why did you regret it?
I don't know. I guess like there just wasn't anything there I really liked that much, and that was like my favorite of the ones. And then I was like, I felt like I could have gotten something I liked more than that.
Kind of felt like you settled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the process of dressing up, putting on makeup, or was it just Halloween in general?
Yeah, I guess just all of it. I always liked actually putting on the costume and the trick or treating.
Did you have any recurring nightmares when you were a kid?
I never really like remember my dreams like too often. There's I just have like one very specific nightmare I remember for whatever reason. Like when I don't even know if it would be a nightmare. I just remember it was like me and my dad going to this cemetery at night when I was a kid. That one was like I still remember it very clearly, which is weird because I was like super young.
Anything in particular about the dream that scared you, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember having just something about like we had like a lantern just like going down and like digging down at night, and it was just like felt like very suspenseful.
Like the classic old school movies where you have people skulking through a graveyard at night, like you said, holding the lantern.
Yeah.
Maybe just something that came in your mind if you had seen something and then gone to bed and dreamt about it.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. So at that point in your life, did you feel an affinity for horror already, or was it just something that was just like one of the many things,
Yeah, I think I definitely did, because I even remember like in my 5th grade class around Halloween, we had to write a scary story, and I like really put a ton of effort into that. I got in trouble because I guess it offended my teacher, which I was like, isn't that kind of the point? It's like it's a scary story, but
well, scary and offensive are not the same thing.
well, it was like it was like a kid going into this house, and this is like '05. So my big scary thing was that Michael Jackson was waiting for him. I was like right when the scandal broke, so it didn't go over well. But I was
See,
like,
that's
I mean,
a common
like,
thread. It was Michael Jackson from Thriller too, wasn't it?
he was like dancing in my story. There was ghosts and whatnot too, but there was a Michael Jackson. I remember like she got really offended. I was like, I mean, if my story kind of got under your skin, I feel like what other fifth grader's story, really scary story, had any sort of impact on her? I don't know.
Right? Like if the teacher was open-minded and focused more on, the process of teaching and awarding, I don't know, good skills or good
Maybe she was an MJ fan.
Maybe, I don't know. Well, then all the more reason to say, you know what, that was disturbing, so it was effective. A+.
Clearly, she didn't see it that way.
Clearly.
All right. Well, moving into your teenage years, then, what are the big things that it affected you in your teenage years in terms of horror?
Yeah, I feel like during my teenage years, I just got like super into pro wrestling. So I became like a diehard Undertaker fan. So that was kind of my obsession at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And just like getting more into like heavy metal. Like, I feel like I was probably watching horror movies kind of less at that point. Although I think that's around when I really got into like some Hitchcock movies.
Okay.
Any particular ones?
Definitely Psycho and Dial M for Murder and Vertigo.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the big three for me. And the TV show, the Alfred Hitchcock Presents. My mom got me onto that one.
Did you still partake in Halloween as a teen?
Yeah, I trick-or-treated till I think I started high school. It's like, I don't know, I was like, what, like 14 or 15, I think was like when I started getting comments from the people at the houses.
Like, aren't you a little old to be a stormtrooper?
Yeah, they're kind of like, they don't want to give me candy anymore. I think I did it throughout high school. To come to think of it, though, I think I did it through my last year of high school.
That's acceptable,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, definitely after that would be a little strange, but
I wasn't too tall, so it helped, I think. Made me seem younger.
Favorite costume as a teen?
Yeah, I'm kind of having like trouble really remembering a lot of them.
That's all right. I probably don't remember any of mine either, but again, if it doesn't work, if that question doesn't hit for you, that's okay.
Yeah.
No least favorite costume then either, I suppose.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. By your teens, did you have anybody else in your life that was also a horror fan?
Yeah, I feel like throughout high school, it was pretty much my mom was the only other one I really knew. Because I had that one friend in he moved away when I was like maybe 13 that I watched The Exorcist with. He was really the only one I can really think of till I got to like college,
Okay. So what was the emotional response, I guess, to some of the stuff in your teens? You mentioned Undertaker, Hitchcock. Was it horror, like fear, excitement? What was the...
Yeah, I guess mostly like excitement.
I mean, I can understand that with the pro wrestling because that's their thing. It's, high energy, lots of excitement. But what about Hitchcock? Where was the excitement there?
I guess I just like love like a great like mystery. I guess it kind of goes back to like Scooby-Doo or whatnot, but just that sense of like mystery, that's why like a lot of people don't really think Dial M for Murder is one of his best movies, but I can watch it again and again because I don't know, just that feeling it like gives, even though I know how it ends now, but it still gives me that same like, I don't know, like that's just that mysterious feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, as far as like, what excites you about Hitchcock films, that's kind of a no-brainer. He's a master of suspense. It's just the way he crafts his films. They're very suspenseful, so it just naturally puts you on edge like that.
Yeah. The end of Psycho especially.
Yeah. Anything else impact you in your teenage years?
Yeah, I guess just getting really into music was kind of the big thing too.
Like what?
Okay, so you meant heavy metal, the music, not the magazine then.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It's like for me the big thing was like discovering Iron Maiden was like they're still my favorite band.
Oh yeah. Have you ever seen them live?
Yeah, I've seen them 5 times.
Such an awesome show. I haven't, but I've seen videos and images and just goddamn the stage presence.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got like all the live albums and DVDs, everything.
Nice.
Trying to remember, what was the name of the character that they had on their albums?
Eddie.
Eddie? Yeah.
Is it Eddie?
Yeah.
I could definitely see a horror fan enjoying the graphic of Eddie.
Yeah.
He was definitely an interesting character.
Mm-hmm. Might have
There's
inspired
also
a couple of
something
things, I think.
There's something so goofy about him too, like.
In some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, Iron Maiden music typically can introduce or enhance a lot of different emotions, not just horror or fear, but excitement as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can even inspire you to run to the hills.
Ha 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 ha.
Oh, uh-huh.
Any other stuff in the horror genre that was big to you in your teens? I mean, books, TV, movies.
Well, I think like around that time was when I just started making my own little like short films
Okay.
in like my high school video class. So that kind of like really got me back into horror, because I feel like for a couple of years I was kind of like not as into it, and then that got me back into it.
It's not uncommon. We've talked to a couple people who've gone away to it and come back to it.
Yeah. And also the whole starting to make your own indie films around the teenage years. Like what kind of things did you make in your teenage years? Was it like shot in the backyard, blood packets, homemade kind of thing?
Yeah, I actually like didn't really get into like the blood like till later. I think because my mom wanted to let me film the blood in the house. But
yeah, you're gonna get it everywhere.
yeah, I mean now like later like I've definitely gotten blood in my mom's house, but at least in high school she wasn't really into letting me do it. But I remember doing it at my friend's house because his mom didn't care until I accidentally shot blood on their ceiling.
Oops. As one does.
As one does.
So what you mentioned, filming the shorts kind of brought you back to the horror genre. I'm guessing that means that some of the shorts that you started with were not horror. So how did that bring you back around to horror?
Yeah, because I in high school they had like a video program that I did for all 4 years. So like a lot of the earlier stuff they were making us do was like do an anti-drug PSA, or like there were specific things you had to do. And then when we started getting more freedom, that's when I would just write, like what came to mind. I feel like even like I usually put on some music and then just let the ideas flow, and that would come out would be like horror scripts.
Okay. Is there something thematic about horror that you like to explore?
I guess like a lot of just psychology is like, I can't think of another genre that you can really like covers like psychology as much as horror does. Any
particular area of psychology?
I don't know, like everything really, I guess. Like, yeah, I don't know if I have a great response to that question, honestly. I don't know.
Okay. Again, just thought I'd throw it out there, see what happens. The reason I ask is because there are other people that we've talked to that have, at least through the conversation, come to realize that there is a specific theme that they keep, I don't want to say keep repeating, but continue to find interest in and keep going back to for various different reasons. But, if there's not one particular thing, that's fine too. Just, you never know.
Yeah.
All right. Was there ever a time when anything really scary happened to you in real life as a teenager?
Not really. Honestly, I live in a town that has like such a ridiculously low crime rate, and like not much happens. So I never really had that scary of a. I remember one time me and my friend, we went down to the local elementary school in like the evening to like play some handball. And when we were walking out, we saw this guy trying to break into the building. Mm-hmm. And we just ran right straight to his house. But I just remember like we really felt like that guy was chasing us. Like looking back, he probably didn't chase us. That was probably what he wanted, was for us to get out of there. But I remember just a very scary moment at the time.
Did you have any reoccurring dreams as a teen?
Not really. I think I just hardly ever remember any dreams.
Okay. So let me see. Up in childhood, you did say that you were already recognizing that there was something about horror that you enjoyed. I'm guessing by the time you got to the teen years, would you say you'd already pretty much established that, or was it still kind of borderline? Like, was horror equal with other things, or was it already above other things in terms of your enjoyment of it?
Yeah, I guess probably like equal at that point.
Okay.
I think too, like once I got around like 16, 17, like I just became a huge like Tarantino fan. So I was like watching less horror at that around then too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he made some horror. Dust Till Dawn, possibly
Yeah.
even Four Rooms, has a bit of a horror scene.
I guess like Death Proof too, but those are like mostly my least favorite things that he made.
Okay. So at least up until your teens, would you say you were more interested, I'm guessing, starting to get into the idea of filmmaking in general, not just horror?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
I was making a lot of like comedies too.
Okay. What got you into, I mean, other than seeing this video, class in school, did you have an interest in creating that kind of thing before entering high school, or was it just like you got to high school and you saw that they had this class, so you decided to take it?
Yeah, actually, that friend I mentioned that had only lived here like a year or two when I was in like middle school, where we watched a lot of horror movies together. I remember he and I making like some little films like on like my mom's camcorder.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, like me and one of my friends when I was in elementary school made a horror film too, but my mom's camera at that time had tapes, and we didn't know how to get me and my friend didn't know how to get the footage off the tape. So somewhere there's probably the first film I ever made. That was a horror film, but yeah, I guess I had some interest, and that's why when I went to high school, my mom like told me like that I should take that class. I needed an elective, so I was like, all right, I'll try it, and I really enjoyed it.
That's cool.
Okay. Any particular memory of why you guys chose to do horror in those early ones in elementary school?
Yeah, I think as me and my friend had just watched the Wayans brothers like scary movies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we were trying to do, is we were just trying to like parody any horror movies that we'd seen. Like I think the like remake of House of Wax we had just watched, so we had like a bunch of scenes that were parodying that movie.
Got it.
Did one involve a pole?
What was that?
Did one involve a pole?
I don't know. It's hard to
Never
remember.
mind. It's a stupid reference. Paris Hilton. I actually like the House of
What
Wax.
have to do with Paris Hilton?
She was in the remake, and she got stabbed through the head with a pole, and then her head just kind of slid down the pole. I think there was some innuendo there.
Okay.
I don't really remember anything from that movie.
All right. So there's some interest in filmmaking, or at least having fun with filmmaking at an early age, and then your mom suggested you get into this, audio video group, which you did, and then, like you say, you did some stuff that wasn't horror, just whatever regular assignments that they were doing, and then you got some leeway, and that's where you decided to write your own horror stuff, or at least that's what came out.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a particular emotional reaction you're going for when creating your work, or at least at that time?
Yeah, I think even now and even then, like my favorite like reaction I get, it's like I just like writing stuff that's really weird. When people are just like, there's like that kind of nervous laughter where it's like kind of disturbing them, but it's like funny, and then they're just like, how do you like come up with this stuff? Like that's like my favorite reaction that I get.
Yeah.
Is there something you like about making other people to feel that way, or is it that you like feeling that way, or both?
Yeah, I guess it's both. I guess I
Is
like
it maybe
films
like the feeling of accomplishment, like a gotcha almost, like you didn't see that coming, did you?
Yeah, I think so.
There was somebody that we talked to once that said that he thought maybe he identified with that feeling of nervousness or awkwardness because, historically for himself at least, that he had always felt like a nervous or awkward person. And so for him, that just seemed like that's just how life is. Like this feels natural to me. Does that make sense with how, was that your experience as well, or was it, different from you?
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty accurate for me as well.
Okay. Has being nervous or awkward always been a thing for you, even since before you were a fan of horror, or?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Interesting.
I mean, I can see that. Like, I think was it Dave Jackson or Matthew? I think it was one of the guys from Catsick Blues.
Might have been
Maybe
Matthew.
Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah, that sounds right. I was just listening to that on the promo that I was working on earlier today.
All right. What about your adult years? What are some of your favorite horror movies and stories and books from your adult years?
Oh, I became a huge like David Lynch fan after watching Eraserhead. And then I've been reading a lot of like more like horror books lately. Like I read It. Right now I'm reading Dracula, and earlier this year I read Ed Gein biography.
Ooh, I bet that was good.
Yeah, I love his story. It's probably my favorite true crime stories.
I had no idea how creative he was with the flesh crafting until I looked into it just recently, like a couple of months ago. Like, damn, he made a lot of things out of skin.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff too they don't talk about. Like in the book, I was like really surprised.
Like what?
Like he had a box with 9 vaginas in it.
9. I knew he had a couple, but that is an impressive collection, sir.
Yes.
That's a strange choice of words, but sure.
Yeah.
Some details they don't really, I guess, cover on like the mainstream documentaries.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, did he have any mental afflictions that they diagnosed? I mean, he had a couple, but like, did they maybe find any abnormalities in his brain in an autopsy or something? You know what? I'm just going to watch the documentary or read the book. read it. Yes.
I don't feel like they ever gave like a specific diagnosis that I'm aware of. If ever there was like one of those guys that I feel like you can make a case was like actually so mentally ill that you could potentially not fault them, like he might be your best like case that you could make.
Mm-hmm. So fucked up it's not even his own fault.
Like, but I do feel like one thing they cover in the book that does seem like it might be true is that he kind of played that up a little bit too to try to get out of it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he was a secret genius like that, like some Kaiser Sose action.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I was gonna respond that you can't really trust that coming from that person,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is it that you liked about Eraserhead?
I just love the world they created. Like I just don't know of a movie that I feel like just like put me in such a strange, like just totally foreign world that felt like they make it feel totally real. And I really love the Jack Nance's performance, as well as the sound design, because I love doing sound design, and to me that's like the greatest sound movie of all time for sure.
What makes it the greatest sound design?
It was like so ahead of its time. Like I feel like so many movies now, like Seven or like Barton Fink, or like so many movies are just trying to like do the Eraserhead thing of just like putting this just like industrial like just like obnoxious noise throughout the entire movie. You don't even know where like a lot of these like sounds are coming from. Just like adds such a layer of like, I guess like just makes it so uncomfortable.
It's been a long time since I saw Eraserhead, so I don't even remember the audio. Come to think of it, it's probably been 10, 15 years since I watched it.
Shit, I think I watched it in high school. That's 25 years ago now.
I know I was an adult by that time because it was when I was doing the job where I had to travel a lot and I was flying a lot, and I remember downloading a bunch of stuff to watch on airplanes, and that was one of the ones that I watched.
I used to wear like I have like an Eraserhead like hoodie. I used to wear like every day. Nice. And when I was in college, like one of my professors, like he started asking me about it, and then he wanted to meet up after class, and then he started telling me that he was like a huge like David Lynch fan, and like he loves like Eraserhead and The Elephant Man. He thinks they're like the best, like two of the best movies of all time. And then I found out later that he had 2 Oscars for sound. Like this guy was like a huge deal, and he was like so excited that I had the Eraserhead hoodie because like he got to talk about these movies that he loved, and I found someone else that shared that interest.
When you said had Oscars for the sound, are you talking about the professor or Lynch?
Yeah. Yeah,
Really?
he's the guy. He did like Total Recall and the movie with the tornado. I can't think what it's called. Is it Twister or something? Like
Yeah.
a lot of those movies, like he's the lead sound guy on a lot of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
TIL.
What about it? What was exciting to you about it?
Oh, well, when I was a kid, I loved the miniseries. I didn't really get it at the time. Like I just thought it was so cool. And I remember that was when I remember my mom trying to explain to me like, I guess like the psychological aspects of like, it's not just a thing that like turns into different monsters, it's specifically like, you know, what these kids are afraid of. Like I didn't really get that when I was a kid, but then to me that was like so interesting. And then I watched it so many times. And then when the first of the new movies came out, I loved it. And I was like, I might as well just read the book. The only reason I haven't is because it is enormous. But I was like,
Yeah, it is a bit daunting.
Yeah. So I finally did it. I think it took me like over a year to get through it just because I don't read that often.
Yeah. How many pages is it?
It's like 1,100 something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So having read it, did you like certain parts of it better than the series?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a lot of filler that like, but there were like some things I'm like, man, like I really wish that either one of the series could have done it closer to that, but I understand why they didn't. I think a lot of it's just like budget reasons, and then just like the director's gonna have their own opinion of certain things. Like I'm sure if I had the opportunity to adapt it, like I wouldn't stick 100% to it either.
What was missing that you would have liked to have seen?
Well, one aspect I really liked in the book was there's like this whole like really like cosmic like aspect of like when they're down in the sewers at the end, like it doesn't like feel like in the movie. In the movies, it just feels like they're battling this one like clown. Like in the book, it just feels like it's this like huge thing where they're like going to different dimensions, and it really feels like when they're battling him, like the whole like town's got this huge storm over it. It just feels like so much like more like huge, I guess, than it does in the movies. Because in movies, it doesn't really feel like it goes that far beyond like the specific people that he's attacking at that moment. But in the book,
Right.
it just feels like he's always kind of over everything.
Yeah, you're right. The movies, both of them really are kind of localized within Derry. There's not a real, cosmic. There's not a better word for it. There's not a real
Yeah.
cosmic feel for it.
Yeah, and then I like to in the book, like when he appears as the clown, like it says he's like middle aged. Like he seems more like a creepy, just like almost like just a pedophile dressed as a clown, as opposed to like in the movies, he seems a little more like charming.
Well, I mean, when you're doing a visual representation of the story, you got to make it believable, and it's not really, hopefully, not believable that most children would approach a creepy old man.
Yeah, but somehow it just feels creepier that way. Like I don't know that it did like feel
definitely.
like he has this just like it just feels creepier, I guess, in that way.
Plus, with books, you can always, I don't know, it's just more personal because you create the image in your mind rather than watching it.
Yeah.
Well, to go back to what you said a second ago, Chris, I think the difference is that, life has changed between now and the time it was written and the time that it was set in, too. I mean, you
True.
had brought up a comment. I can't remember which interview it was in, but we were talking about the original movie Halloween, and you commented how you always thought it was funny how the parents would stand there in the doorway and look out the window, like just giving Michael Myers this, disappointed look, like, oh, Michael, and not
What
calling
did you
the cops.
do now? Yeah, well, that was Sarah Gierske's interview. I know this because I heard that about 5 times today during editing. Yes, definitely that one.
But that's with the hindsight of like 40 years now. It's today we would do that, but 40 years ago, and just like your comment here about walking up or not being as afraid of a middle-aged man in a clown costume back in the 70s or 80s, I mean, it would have been unnerving, definitely, but I think that there would have been more leeway given back then than there would today. There's a lot more stranger danger today than ever back then.
Yes, pre-Hansen era.
Hansen, like
Chris Hansen, not the band.
Oh,
no.
I was like, how does that tie in?
This is about to get real weird. No, Chris Hansen.
That's like, how did that tie into this at all? Sorry, you were saying, Sam?
I was just gonna say like the story of it also is like there's the 50s aspect and the 80s aspect. Like,
True.
so I feel like things are different even in throughout the duration of where the book is set into.
Yeah, that too.
So what about Dracula? What'd you like about Dracula?
I actually started reading it because I played the new Resident Evil game and they got these like vampires.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like in a vampire mood, I guess. And then I was like, I love like both Nosferatu movies, the 20s one and the 70s one. I was like, I might as well just read the book.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm about halfway through right now. So
Cool.
Okay. What do you like about the Nosferatu movies?
they just feel so much scarier than like the Dracula movie. I don't know, like the Bela. I hate the Bela Lugosi movie. It's like not that good to me. But I just think like Nosferatu just looks terrifying, and especially the 20s one. There's something so scary. Like it feels real when I watch it. It doesn't feel like a polished like film.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like weird footage somebody found from a long time ago with a real vampire.
Like one of the first found horrors or found
Yeah.
footages. Also, it's a silent film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that makes it all the creepier.
Yeah.
Is that what you don't like about the Lugosi Dracula? Is it like too polished or something?
Yeah, I think so. And like even in like the book, for instance, there's these three like vampire women that live in the castle, but they always feel like very like ghostly. Like they can just kind of go through the walls and they'll just like appear like in the light. But in the movie, like in the which I don't even think they're in either Nosferatu movie, if I'm not mistaken, but in the like Bela Lugosi movie, they're just like three women that just walk into the room. Like they don't look scary or anything. They just like three women that walk in. Like it's such a disappointment to me.
But
I
they
like
walked
the,
in spookily. They walked.
They don't even. They
They
just
don't.
walk in, and then there's a bat that's like on a string outside.
Do you see any common threads about the kinds of horror that you like? Cannibal, I mean, you mentioned supernatural, but other than that, maybe.
Psychological, maybe.
Yeah, I like a lot of like psychological and like surrealist horror, and then I like a lot of like just like serial killer films. Not like I'm not a big like slasher movie fan, but more like films like Psycho or like Silence of the Lambs type, like more of like a realistic like just serial killer film. Like I wish there was more of like those.
Ooh, or like, have you seen Pieces of Talent?
I haven't seen that one.
That's pretty good. It's like a, I don't know, more realistic take, I think, on a serial killer, because he's methodical and he plans things out, but he's also funny and messy, maybe on purpose almost. I don't know. It's a good one.
Yeah, it sounds good. The other one I liked a lot I watched recently, I'm not sure how to say it, but it's like the Poughkeepsie tapes or
Oh yeah,
Poughkeepsie.
not sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
That one is dark.
There's one scene I absolutely hated in that movie. I thought was so stupid, but the rest of the movie I loved. But
What's that?
there's a part where they're like, "Oh, the killer's theatrical," and he put on this like I don't even know, like a like Mardi Gras type like mask, and he was like, it just like that. It didn't like match the rest. It felt like they were trying to make a like overly like I guess produced like movie at that point, or the rest of it like felt much more realistic.
Are you talking about the scene where he has two masks on and he crawls around like upside or backwards, and he like goes up to the woman with the two piercing tubes on his fingertips? That part?
Yeah, I think so. I just remember he was like killing a woman in one of the tapes, and he had this like mask on, and then
Yeah.
the guy being interviewed was saying like, "Oh, he's showing a theatrical side."
Jesus. I didn't really take it that way, but yeah.
I like the rest of the movie. Just that one part, I just wish they would have cut it.
It's a little jarring to the rest of the film, you're right.
Yeah.
I may or may not have dressed up as exactly that. I went to a Halloween convention recently.
Oh.
They made me peace bond the tubes on the end of his fingertips, like how they give you a bright pink or a bright yellow zip tie to show that your weapon's not real. There were fucking tubes on the end of my fingers. And they made me peace bond them.
That is weird.
You don't want anybody poking anybody's eyes out with those.
I mean, they did look like giant hypodermic needles on the end of the fingertips, so there's that.
So, is there something about uneasiness in general that you enjoy?
Yeah, I feel like there is, but I couldn't really say why. It just feels like I don't know, really. I guess it just excites me. Like if I'm like in the mood for like a horror film, I watch something else. It just feels very underwhelming. Like it feels like the stakes are so much like higher, and like just the mood it gives feels like bigger than if I were to go watch like just like an action movie or something.
I'm wondering if there's some connection maybe earlier in your life that connected those two feelings for you, excitement and that nervous feeling.
Yeah, I'm not really sure because it's like an interesting thing, I guess, because thinking that like my brother grew up in basically the exact same like way that I did, yet doesn't share the same like passion. Like I don't know if that's just something that I was born with and he wasn't. Like I don't know that there was like an event that would have led me in that direction, really.
Well, was your brother born just after Halloween?
No, he was not. So yeah, it might be. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, could definitely play into it. There was somebody else we interviewed, I think Jasmine Martinez. Her birthday was just before Halloween, and so that definitely affected her in terms of having. I mean, it was one of many things. It wasn't the only thing, but it played a role in it, played a part.
Yeah.
So, as an adult, do you still participate in Halloween now?
Yeah, mostly lately. Like I mean, well, last year there wasn't much I could do with the pandemic, but the year before that, I was at like Halloween Horror Nights at Universal on Halloween, or I usually go like right around Halloween.
I've actually never been.
Oh,
Lived in Florida all my life, but I've never been to Halloween Horror Nights. I've heard it's like lame by comparison now, so wouldn't be worth going. But I don't know, if I've never been, maybe it wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, I always really enjoy it. I used to go to, we have another theme park, Knott's Berry Farm, where they have Knott's Scary Farm, which I was going to for a while. And then it's actually my brother was like, I think this is Universal Studios. They, they basically invented horror film as we know it. Like they're going to do it better than some other random theme park. And then I gave it a try and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this every year instead. This is a lot better.
Is it like the three doors in the It remake where it says not scary, but it's actually not scary?
So I'm not exactly sure what you're asking.
I mean, like the title is not. Oh, it's not. Oh scary, no, it's like KNOTT. Yes, I just.
Yeah, like Don Knotts, I guess.
It sounds like Not Scary Farm. Like it's.
I
not
know they didn't do a great job with their pun.
Maybe it was intentional. Who knows? To answer Chris's question, I think the point is like Sam was saying, Universal's the one that created some of these monsters. You would think that they'd do a decent, job of presenting or, producing some of the stuff. So if you go to Halloween Horror Nights, it may not be movie quality, but it's also probably better quality than your normal, house party that you have with the guy down the block. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's room in between.
Yeah.
What's that?
I was gonna say, like, too, they have like the Psycho set, like the house in the hotel, and that they incorporate that into it. So it's like it's just another thing that they have so much like that they can just use.
Well, so Chris and I used to live down in Tampa Bay area. Chris still does live down there. And so when he was talking about going to Halloween Horror Nights, he was talking about the one in Orlando.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I don't know whether or not they have that in the one in Orlando.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I'm by the LA ones.
Yeah. Any favorite costumes as an adult? Any least favorite?
Well, I did actually. Well, I went to a Christmas party and I had a mannequin leg with a lampshade over it. That was probably
that's awesome.
But no one understood it though. But like two people.
What? How do you not understand that?
Yeah, I don't know. The two people that got it, it was hilarious to them. But
how do you not at this day and age know Christmas Story? Like, I mean,
that's what I thought. But
at a Christmas party,
right?
Yeah, I thought it would be understood by more people.
Did you tell them you were fragile? You were Italian,
Yeah, I actually did make that joke.
Nice.
Has anything happened to you as an adult that has scared you in real life?
I will say yes, but it's not entirely, but it is somewhat has a pretty big impact on my upcoming film. Okay. So I don't know if I should really say it. It's sort of
too much of a spoiler.
Yeah, like again, I'm not like directly just adapting the story, but it has a big impact on the one that I'm fundraising for right now. So.
Okay, cool. Well, then we will skip that one.
Terrifying story, though.
So now as an adult, do you have friends that are fans of horror as well? And I guess I should qualify that by saying I'm not talking about people necessarily that you work with. I mean, like, do you have a group of friends outside of what you do for a living that are fans of horror?
Yeah, well, the first thing was just like with just a couple weeks left of high school, I met this guy that I had been going to high school with, who was he was a couple of years younger than me, but he was a big horror fan. So I was about to graduate when I met him, but like we still watch horror movies together a lot because he lives down the street from me. And then in college, I met some, and also just like since I've been making my own films, like just talking to like most of the people I talk to online, like every day, are just other horror fans around the world that I've just connected with on social media.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in your case, the reason that we ask this particular question is sometimes the social element is a big part of it for them. But I mean, thinking back through our call so far for you, it sounds like it was a big thing in your childhood, even before you had a social element to it. Yeah,
definitely. And then also just the last few years, I've been going to like the horror conventions, just, meeting a lot of the actors and filmmakers that made this stuff I grew up watching has been really cool too.
I'm sure.
Always a good time.
Yeah.
Any reoccurring dreams as an adult?
The only one I think of is just being in a car and the brake doesn't work. I get that one a lot for some reason.
Interesting. That's like the car version of the falling dream almost.
Yeah, it's somewhat similar.
Loss of control or loss of power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess we could ask that, is loss of control or loss of power a theme that you recognize being important to you, looking back through the things that you have enjoyed, in the horror industry, throughout your life? Has that been an ongoing concern, or is it just now a more recent adult thing?
Yeah, I guess a more recent adult thing, really. I don't really know where it comes from, but it's recurring enough that it must come from somewhere.
I mean, one possible explanation is, as an adult, we definitely more aware of how little we can control things sometimes, as opposed to, being a kid, you think everything's under control or can be controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next two questions I want to ask, I'm going to give them both to you at the same time because they could be the same answer for both questions, or they could be different answers. But the two questions are, and this is not just for adults, but your entire life. What is your favorite movie, and what movie have you watched more times than any other?
My favorite movie is probably Eraserhead. It's definitely not the movie I've watched the most times because I have to really be in the mood for it, or it's just awful. There's probably like a 5-way tie for the one I've watched the most.
Okay.
Probably be like Clue, the one based on the board game, Pulp Fiction, School of Rock, or The Blues Brothers are probably the 4 that I feel like I've just seen like so many times.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I do just go back and watch like the same, like probably like 20 or 30 movies a lot.
What do you love about Clue?
I guess it's like similar to like the thing with like Ghost of Mr. Chicken or like Scooby-Doo, where it's just like, it's sort of got all the like kind of the horror movie and the mystery film like elements, but just done in like just a super like fun and like goofy way. Yeah. And it's got some of the best dialogue I've ever heard in my life too.
It's like, if I could use an analogy, a good film is like a good meal or a good recipe, and Clue just got it. It's got that classic campy yet still exciting and fun, but spooky and slightly disturbing. I guess it has everything.
Yeah, it's one of those movies too where it's like it makes you feel like you wish you lived in the world that it takes place in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want secret passages that go from my kitchen to my study.
Exactly. The bookcase, spins and go through.
Get enough money and you can.
True.
True. They actually sell those at Home Depot. They're like false doors or false cabinets that are doors.
Mhm.
I have to look into that.
What about Pulp Fiction?
Well, part of it is I just love like that I've grown up in LA, and actually Quentin Tarantino grew up like 10 minutes from where I live. So
Nice.
it just like kind of feels like it's like a very like over the top fun sort of version of the city I grew up in, especially Jackie Brown. That movie is like right around where I live, and my hometown gets a shout out in Reservoir Dogs actually, but it's just like, I don't know. I guess that's the same reason I like all his movies. Just like they're just like super, just like fun, like movies with great dialogue and great characters.
Okay. School of Rock?
It's just like one that me and my brother just watched like a ton. It's got a ton of replay value, and I love Jack Black.
Maybe something about the humor.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I mean, I love like, like rock music and metal music, and it's like just like I love just that it's a movie about just like he kind of reminds me his character of like one of my relatives a lot. So it's just kind of funny.
And what about Blues Brothers?
That's another one I feel like is just like growing up, like every like family like holiday, that would just be like the go-to movie that everybody likes. And
Got it.
yeah, just one of those movies that never gets old.
Okay. So the reason that we ask those two questions are to see if there's anything that either underscores something that you've already mentioned in the interview, or if it highlights something new. I mean, you kind of mentioned the thing about LA and the hometown thing before in the interview, and kind of same thing with Clue, like you said with Scooby Doo, is the cliches and the humor.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's anything new there, but I also don't feel like it really ties into horror too well either. I mean, other than the cliches, but other than humor and cliches, well, you mentioned psychology. I was going to ask what were the common themes or common threads about the horror that you like. I remember you saying psychology or suspense.
Yeah.
Was there something else that I'm missing?
I think a big thing too is I love just like very like gloomy atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a big thing for me. I feel like lately, especially, it's just like movies that like, even when there's nothing like not a kill scene or something, where just the whole time there's sort of just that like dark sort of feel. That's why I got a lot from it. I got it from Clue. I'm also like a huge fan of like the Silent Hill, the horror games. Just like where it just feels like it's just like putting you in this very just sort of dark like atmosphere. I don't know how to really describe it, but I guess I care more about that than like plot personally.
No, I think that's a good word for it. Atmosphere, the feeling that it evokes maybe in you.
Yeah. Where it's like almost working like, oh, sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead.
I was just saying like where sometimes it feels like a movie could be affecting you more like there's a quote by Roger Ebert in his review of Taxi Driver where he's talking about the end, and he's like, it works more like music than it does on like a narrative level, where like the last like couple of scenes, they don't really like, you couldn't really like recap what's happening. And I feel like that's true of a lot of like Eraserhead and stuff, where it just like feels almost like more of like a musical effect on you than like a narrative effect, if that makes sense.
Right. I can't remember who it was said by, but one of the quotes, a similar quote that I like, is that words make you think thoughts, music makes you feel feelings, and I think they were saying that lyrics make you feel thoughts. Like it's a combination of the feeling and the thought.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is the next question typically then is, what is it that you like about those things, and why horror? Because, normally a lot of the things that come up in these interviews are things that you could find in other genres. So then we say, why horror? Because trying to decipher why it is that they like those things in the horror genre as opposed to liking those things outside the horror genre sometimes educates us on, a little more about what it is that they like. But, what you're talking about here with the atmosphere and the emotion, I don't really know that there is any other genre that evokes this kind of an atmosphere other than horror.
Yeah, the only one I think is really close, if you can even really call it a genre, is like film noir,
Right?
or I guess some like mystery films. Like you could, like, I guess like Hitchcock. Like you might not call like Vertigo a horror film, but that's the only other thing I can think of those sort of like suspenseful mystery films.
Yeah,
like kind of have
suspense, but film noir is better. I like that one better.
Yeah. Like when I watch like Sunset Boulevard, like I feel like it gives me the same feeling that like a horror movie might.
Well, I mean, I feel like we've at least narrowed in on the atmosphere. I don't know that we have a real answer for what it is that you like about that atmosphere, or what triggered your enjoyment of that atmosphere, but at least narrowing it down to that is something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think unless there's something that you can think of that you think is relevant that we haven't talked about, I think that's might be as far as we might get on this.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else.
Okay. Well, before we close the call, do you want to pitch anything on your way out?
Not really. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really have anything in particular.
Okay. Just the Indiegogo and what's coming next.
Yeah, and I recently, I recently released like 9-minute silent horror short on my YouTube channel. The film's just called Wormhole, one word.
Cool.
Check it out. It's free.
Okay.
Shot it over the pandemics.
We can link to that on your bio too if you want.
Yeah, that one's a very, I guess, like heavy on the atmosphere and not so heavy on the plot.
Did you say it at the start? I don't remember. Sorry, at the start of the call, did you say what the name of the Indiegogo or next thing you're working on is?
Yeah, it's Erotomaniac.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Our pleasure. Thank you, anybody out there listening. Please do come visit us at horrormakesushappy.com. We have a list of people that we'd like to interview, and if you can help us get in touch with any of those people, please do. Or if you'd like to have somebody added to the list, let us know. We've also got a bunch of very nice merchandise and stuff that you can find on Redbubble. There's a link on our page for that. A bunch of cool designs. Just in general, come let us know how we're doing. HorrorMakesUsHappy.com.
Yeah.
Okay.